Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into SEC Nightly, the nightly show dedicated to the top news and notes from the nation's top conference. We've had a couple of great 48 hours here, in Atlanta. Well, it's been a great 48 hours here in Atlanta, but it's been a rather eventful 48 hours out there in Indianapolis at the Scouting Combine. We will be joined by one of the best in the business right now covering the NFL Draft, and that's one of my former colleagues, Sayre Bedinger, will hop on tonight's broadcast. Knows all the names, right? We like to focus on the SEC here. Sayre's going to give us that national perspective that we really need in order to get the full package, right? The full prospect profile of these guys from the SEC that are heading on into their next step of their careers into the NFL. Just some quick thoughts about what we've seen the last 2 days here at the Combine. Personally, I know there's been a lot of bickering on social media about the new platform and about the new time schedule. I can't speak highly enough about it. Look, watching the NFL Combine middle of the way through the day isn't the way we like to do it, right? I mean, I would rather sit here at night, have the NFL Combine still going on right here in the corner while I'm talking to you here on SEC Nightly. It's a little bit better for the avid, regular everyday fan. The guy that's working the 9 to 5 isn't going to be able to sit there and watch the Combine when offensive linemen kick off and start running at 9 o'clock in the morning, okay, typically on Thursdays like they used to do. So I personally am a proponent of this new style. I like the way that this, 4 p.m. to 11 p.m. kind of thing is going on. I know, it's a little bit later, right, than we're typically used to watching primetime events. These guys up there in Indianapolis, probably a little bit longer of a day for these guys, especially these scouts and coaches. But again, I can't speak highly enough about the way they formatted it now here in Indianapolis. And, how about going on to ESPN, doing a simulcast between the NFL Network and the ESPN for so long? Us people that had that NFL Network press pass or the NFL Network availability on our TV package, we felt a little bit elite, right? A little bit of elitism going on. But now ESPN simulcasting it, getting it on there at 7 o'clock. You get to watch the 7 to 11 window there on ESPN.com and ESPN's, main channel wave. So, a little bit more exposure nowadays for these national combines, for this combine than as per usual in the history. So we appreciate you guys for being here with us tonight on SEC Nightly. You guys know by now we typically do this Monday through Friday starting at 9 p.m. And again, man, I cannot be happy enough about bringing my boy Sayre Bedinger on from NFLMocks.com. Again, one of the best in the business doing it, and he just so happens to be one of my best friends. So I'm going to patch him on right now. Sayre Bedinger, all the way out there from Omaha, Nebraska, joining us via, a technology system, Sayre, that you and I probably thought we would have had a couple of months back when we were co-hosts together. Am I right, brother?
Dude, I'm just shaking my head at how easily I just logged onto this. You got a green screen and all this. Man, this is good stuff. I'm excited, bro.
Hey, brother, don't be giving the goods away, man. Not everybody knows that this is just a fancy green screen back here behind me. Nobody knows that, man. They think this is a professional backdrop that I may or may not have made with Bluebeam PDF files and documents. No, but for those who don't know, Sayre is the lead editor over there at NFLMocks.com, one of the best in the business covering the NFL draft and evaluating these prospects moving forward. And he does it from a national perspective, right? Here on SEC Nightly, we typically bring you on writers from the local space, right? We bring Chantel Powell over from Gamecock Digest. We bring Cole Thompson over from All Aggies, guys and girls that are located and doing a great job covering the SEC. Sayre doing a great job covering this draft nationally. So we'll be able to ask him and get his unbiased opinion about some of these guys that we all know about, right? Totally unbiased opinion, except for when we're talking about Tristan Wirfs, the Hawkeye from Iowa.
You better be careful, baby, because Tristan Wirfs coming for that O-line one spot. Oh, man, that was good stuff today.
Yeah, Tristan Wirfs blew it up. And we'll start there, Sayre. That's a great, segue into our first talking point tonight. And it's tackle talk, right? Today was offensive linemen and running backs day. We got to see the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and tight ends yesterday. We'll hit on them a little bit here in a second. But today was about the big fellas and Quadzilla. Tristan Wirfs out there tearing it up on the field. Let's start with him, Sayre. What did you think? I mean, obviously, we've seen a pretty historic run today from Tristan Wirfs in terms of
Yeah.
when you pair the 4.85 40 with the 36.5-inch vertical and the 10-foot 1-inch broad jump. I guess the real question we have to start with, Sarah, is this the best measurables day we've seen from a 320-pound offensive tackle?
I honestly can't think of a better one. I mean, I've been watching the combine for a really long time, and I thought Mekhi Becton's 40-yard dash was going to be the best thing that we saw all day, and then Tristan Wirfs stepped up to the track. So, and even before that, when he was doing his broad jump and his vert. So, I mean, honestly, dude, like, it's kind of crazy to me to think, like, I've been watching the combine since I was a little kid, and no offensive lineman has ever jumped 36.5. Like, that blew my mind when I heard that, and I'm like, that's insane. So for him to do that, I mean, we could tell watching Iowa. Of course, I'm an Iowa guy, so I love watching Tristan Wirfs, and especially with him and Fant and Hawkinson and all those guys there a couple of years ago. But I knew watching him that he was athletic. But man, you wonder like what's in the water when he does some stuff like this, because I know Iowa's been doing a pretty good job. I mean, George Kittle blew everyone away at the combine back in 2017. Noah Fant blew up the combine last year. Like, Iowa's doing something in their strength program and their conditioning program that's really working. And Tristan Wirfs is just on another level. I mean, we didn't even get to see him do any powerlifting stuff, but he set Iowa records in that regard as well. And so it's just crazy, man. What a workout. And man, he made himself some money. That's for sure.
So Tristan Wirfs wasn't exactly a slept-on prospect coming out of high school. I mean, he was an Adidas All-American there. I mean, played in some All-American bowls, was probably a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. What is it about that Iowa program? I mean, we saw Ryan Sheriff a couple of years ago. You already mentioned the tight ends. We know all about the tight ends, but tell me a little bit about, for the people who don't know nationally, what Kirk Ferentz means as a head coach, not only that, but a developer and an identifier of offensive line talent.
Yeah, so he's in my mind, he's the best in the biz, man. Like, you just look back at all the younger listeners of Brooks's show should go back and Wikipedia some of those early 90s Cleveland Browns teams coached by Bill Belichick. And on that staff, if you look online, you'll find Kirk Ferentz as the offensive line coach on some of those really good Cleveland Browns teams that kind of never were, so to speak. And so Kirk Ferentz, before he became the Iowa head coach, he's always been an offensive line guy. You know, he bred and raised literally offensive linemen. His sons, Brian and I'm misplacing the name, James and some other guys, some other ones have been offensive linemen. So literally it's in his DNA. And if you look at Kirk Ferentz, I mean, he doesn't look like an offensive lineman by any means, but the dude knows how to grow them. I mean, Iowa's whole thing is about farming and America needs farmers. And dude, Kirk Ferentz never is low on the harvest of offensive linemen. He's just cranking them out from, I mean, I remember I was probably 13 years old when Robert Gallery came out, I think that was the 2002 draft. I can't remember the exact, 2004 maybe. But Robert Gallery was just this big, hulking, massive dude, and he played so well at Iowa. He was the second pick in the draft to the Oakland Raiders back in the day, and he's just been just year after year. You mentioned Sheriff, but there's other guys. Bulaga is another guy who's a really good offensive lineman out of Iowa, and you could probably pick guys at every position in the NFL. And Wirfs, he's got to be the most talented. I mean, that's hard to say when you've had guys like Marshall Yanda, Eric Stein.
Had a center Daniels a couple years ago, didn't they?
Yeah, some guy who's pretty good. Yeah. And he's only 23 years old still. I mean, he's not even barely reaching the peak yet. And so those guys are just good, man. They come out ready to play because Coach Ferentz coaches them up like pros, and that's what I just believe that he does that. And now their strength program is another level.
Yeah, something's going on there, right? I mean, is it something that, Ferentz, like at Alabama, we know, and it's notorious that Nick Saban's got his hands involved. Shout out to the little man back there hollering. But no, you're good, man. We know Nick Saban's got his hands every once in a while in that defensive backs group. Is it something that Kirk Ferentz, is he heavily involved in that offensive line group up there at Iowa? Is that what we're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know the day-to-day, but I know that's his area of expertise, and so I would guess that he's pretty hands-on with that when he can be. But also, his son is the offensive coordinator, so and his son being a former offensive lineman, I'm sure he delegates a lot of that stuff. But being that that's kind of in his blood, it's his specialty, I would bet that he pays a little extra attention to detail in that regard, and that's why Iowa's offensive linemen, no matter if they're fifth-year seniors or true freshmen, which Wirfs was actually one of the first true freshmen, I think, to actually start at tackle for Ferentz, his true freshman year. So
he's the only one ever to do it.
Yeah, only one ever. So and that speaks to Wirfs' physical abilities and the way that he's able to pick things up, because Kirk Ferentz, he just doesn't play underclassmen unless you're worthy. No. And like it or not, but that's the way that he operates. And so yeah, I think you're a hands-on guy in that regard, I would guess.
All right, so let's go through it. Like I've got 4 tackles here, 4 names, and maybe we can sneak in a 5th with Austin Jackson out of USC, depending on how you feel about him as a prospect. But just over the top, we got Tristan Wirfs, Jedrick Wills there from Alabama, Mekhi Becton, the big tackle out of Louisville, and our guy here on SEC Nightly, Andrew Thomas, there out of Georgia. If you were to take that quartet, if you will, and to rank them 1 through 4 after today's performances at the Combine, how would you see it out, Sarah? And then maybe I'll kind of jar back with you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you got to look at the whole body of work. I think so often we get fooled by the scouting combine. This is kind of a separate little quick note, but somebody was saying, well, after Henry Ruggs ran the 4.27 or whatever it was, like he's not going to fall down to the 15th pick to the Broncos. And I'm like, everyone knew he was going to run that time.
I knew he was going to burn.
So I think it's funny how that kind of works, but at the same time, I think these workouts do kind of highlight some things, but the tape doesn't lie. And I think that the most valuable thing that these guys bring to the table is experience and what they do in the games. And that, obviously, especially being a former old lineman yourself. But I think honestly, right now, it's hard for me to put anyone above Becton because he plays left tackle primarily. And I don't think that's a knock against Wirfs. I think you could say maybe 1A with Wirfs. I think Becton, the thing that just highlighted what we've seen on tape, like Daniel Jeremiah on the broadcast put it best. He's like, you can't run through him. You can't run around him. How are you supposed to get around this guy? He's massive. He's athletic. He's fast. He's strong. He's long. So I think in terms of just pure upside, I would put him at number 1, and then number 2, I would go Wirfs. Based on personally, I would have had him 1 until probably the last month or so, watching Becton quite a few of his games and seeing him play. But I think Wirfs, to me, I think he projects well at if a team needed him to start at right guard this year or left guard, I think he could play it. If they need him to start at left tackle, I think he can play it. Right tackle, I think he can play it. And then I think right after them, I really like Andrew Thomas, your guy. I mean, I think every time I've seen him play, it looks like the dude was cut out of a, if an offensive lineman had a lab where they made clones of the greatest offensive lineman that you could print out of, just like the perfect specimen. He looks like that guy, and his length is ridiculous. We saw that at the weigh-in, and so I think he's kind of become a victim of being so highly thought of for so long that people are kind of just bored of putting him at the top. But really, I mean, most classes in recent years, especially, he would be your number 1 tackle.
He's 0-2-1.
So, and then I think right after him is Wills, and I think that, again, another guy that you could say in any other year he might be number 1, and he's just special. He's gifted. You saw him move today, and he doesn't look like he can move that fast. Like some of those other guys are kind of built in such a way that, well, maybe he could run fast. Like Wirfs, he's got those tree trunk thighs, but Wills just kind of looks. It's not like he carries his weight poorly, but he just doesn't look like a great athlete. But the dude is a great athlete, and man, when he strikes you, I was impressed by that. I mean, not often do I raise my eyebrows and just kind of like slap my keyboard, but man, he had some plays that had me fired up. So I really like him too.
Yeah, I think I certainly expected Andrew Thomas to run a lot better 40 today than he did. And I'll be 100% on that, especially the 10-yard split. When you look at the guy on tape, and for that matter, when you saw him in the on-field drills today, lightning quick feet. I mean, it is the definition of a pitter-patter when what you want in an offensive lineman. The toe-to-heel instep is phenomenal at all times. He's never in a bad position. We saw that constantly today. However, when I looked at it on film and I saw those light feet and I saw that quick athleticism and saw him, be able to basically backpedal with Clavon Chasen running at a full speed and ahead in the SEC championship game, I expected to see something around the 5 flat,
Yeah.
something around what Jedrick Wills ran today, where he ran 5:09. It didn't really pan out that way. And now I think as an evaluator, if you're going into a process saying one guy is your OT1, which is what he was for me and what he is for me, if a 5.240 is something that deters you away from that claim that he's the best tackle, you're not doing this process correctly. You're not evaluating these talents correctly. So I'm still holding firm off the fact that Andrew Thomas is the best tackle in this draft, because for 41 starts in the SEC, I honestly can say this here. I never saw him and left a game thinking, you know what? That guy got beat today. Or, you know what? That guy wasn't the best offensive lineman on the field today, because he wasn't. For 41 straight starts, and that's including with Isaiah Wynn over there at left tackle as a true freshman, a first-round draft pick there to the New England Patriots. When they were on the same roster in 2017, I think you could make a hard-pressed argument that Andrew Thomas held his own on the edge right there with Isaiah Wynn, the future first-round pick. So I'm holding firm. I'm holding firm on Andrew Thomas being OT1, and I know it looked great from Wirfs today, but guess what? I've got questions about Tristan Wirfs' anchor. I've seen him get driven into the backfield. I've seen that happen. Michigan. Chase Winovich ate his lunch last year as well. So I've seen it happen to Wirfs. I haven't seen it happen to Andrew Thomas. There is no questions about the anchor. There's no questions about the hat and hand placement to me, and there's certainly no questions about the foot speed for me out there on the edge either. So OT1, I'm still holding. Now, whether or not we want to talk about best offensive lineman or best athlete or whatever that conversation turns into, I would probably go Wirfs, because I know he can bump in and be an all-pro guard if he was asked to do that tomorrow. I don't know if that's the case with Andrew Thomas. All right, so on to what people really want to talk about. They want to talk about these quarterbacks, Sarah Bettinger. The guys that we saw on the field last night there in Indianapolis. Obviously didn't get to see Burrow or Tua, the consensus top 2 guys off the board in most people's mock drafts. But from the Justin Herberts, from the Jacob Easons, from the Jake Fromms and the Jordan Loves, what did you see, Sarah Bettinger, last night that stood out? If you had to say one thing, what was it?
I think, honestly, man, Herbert and Love just kind of established to me that they're going to be top 12, top 15 guys. And it's not based on anything they did at the combine, but you have to remember, like, when you've seen the what's the line, you see the same people through different eyes or something like that. Like, you see the same thing happen in the NFL through different years. It's like teams fall in love with certain things about quarterbacks. They just do. And Jordan Love has everything that you could want in a potential franchise quarterback. He does. And we saw him spinning it out there yesterday, man. That guy, he's got a pretty ball. We can't deny it. I saw him struggle quite a bit, and I actually watched Utah State this year, if you can even believe that. But
I can.
I watched Utah State live. I watched him play Wake Forest even, man. Like, I still remember it. And I was hoping, like, I want Jordan Love to be really good. Like, I love a good story. That's what I'm in the business of. That's what you're in the business of. Like, he's a great story. Is he a great player right now? I don't know. But I know that he can sling the rock. And I know that some arrogant coach in the NFL, and I mean that in the best way possible, is going to think that they can make him a superstar. And with Herbert, I think you're a bit safer. You know, I think that last year, a lot of teams probably had him as the top quarterback in the 2019 draft before he kind of surprisingly decided to come back to school. And so I honestly believe that he's going to go top 10. I don't think anything changed with him this past year. I think I actually liked his 2019 tape better than his 2018 tape, which was pretty good. And so I think he's a lock for the top 10. I think some team like the Chargers is going to love him, but those 2 guys, they did stand out. They were slinging the rock. They were doing their thing. And I love to see that, man. I love to see those guys come out of the combine. You got no chemistry with the receivers. It's an awkward environment, no defense. Like, that, people think that's just easy for quarterbacks. Well, throwing on air in front of, you know, the John Elways of the world and the Bill Belichick's of the world and all those,
and the Dan Marinos of the world up there in the box.
Exactly. You know, it's nerve-wracking. And so I thought they did a great job. I think they showed poise. I love the story. Somebody, I'm forgetting who it was, posted on Twitter that Justin Herbert was in the weight room for the bench press, cheering guys on as they were doing the bench press. And like, it factor, baby. That NFL bias. I like that. Yeah, I like that kind of thing, especially for a guy who people are like, is he kind of like aloof, or is he like, what kind of personality type is Justin Herbert? And that was a question mark of his, even dating back to last year. And so,
Yeah, I remember a certain co-host of mine questioning the it factor from Justin Herbert. So I'm glad to see that one former co-host of the NFL Mocks podcast is starting to turn the page on Sherbert the Herbert. But, one thing I saw from both Jacob Eason and Justin Herbert yesterday was that, like most of these big-armed guys, I said it on here on SEC Nightly prior to those guys getting out there on the field, some of these big-armed guys tend to aim the ball and not really let the thing rip. And that's kind of what you saw from Herbert and Eason early on until they settled in. But I got to get your theories, because talk about it factor. One guy that you love for the it factor is our guy here from the state of Georgia, and that's Jake Fromm. And I talked to several scouts today, Sarah, over – not
Brooks.
Several. I talked to a couple of scouts today that basically told me exactly what they thought was going to happen, right? They didn't learn anything new about Jake Fromm yesterday. In fact, anything that happened yesterday was just confirmation of what they already knew, right? You watched him throw the slants, the digs, and the speed outs, all the rhythm throws, the three-step hitches, get the ball out quick, on the dime, on the money, completely accuracy, good rhythm in throws. Now, start making them throw deep ends. Start making them throw post corners. Start making them throw, deep goes and whatnot, things like that. DeAndre Swift rerunning his 4.48 right there. How about that? Good time from D Swift. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. But no, the questions about the arm strength only prevail after yesterday, right? The questions about the limited athleticism, we already knew that coming in. So, just basically confirmation of what we already knew when it comes to Jake Fromm. I was telling a scout today, an investment in Jake Fromm is an investment in the intangibles, the things you'll never be able to measure, the things you'll never be able to really, for the most part, put on tape, right? You can only see so much on tape that whether or not he's impacting and stuff like that. What he talks about as most important as a quarterback is being able to impact the others around you. Those are the kind of things you're never going to be able to see in shorts and T-shirts. What did you think about the kid from Georgia today, sir, or yesterday?
My personal opinion is that if you thought that he was going to do something at the scouting combine to change your opinion of him, then you didn't really like him in the first place. If you like Jake Fromm based on going to 3 SEC championships and doing his thing, and just generally being a leader of a team and operating a pro style offense where, he struggled at times, like you said, with some of the things that he struggles with. I just don't like to evaluate like that. I don't put stock into the quarterback workouts at the combine. I think it's actually borderline stupid that they even get, critiqued on it. But at the same time, I understand it's a talking point. And with Fromm, of course you're going to see amplified the struggles, that's what this is. But if you liked Jake Fromm based on his college tape, the combine's not going to do anything to deter you from drafting him. And so I think that, and if you didn't like him before the combine, you weren't ever going to draft him anyway, because if he doesn't show you on anything on tape, or if you didn't talk to the coaches and hear anything you liked or anything like that at this point, what more is the guy going to do? You're going to get him in an interview and he's going to convince you that that's the kind of guy you want your daughter to date or something like that. I don't know. But to me, if you liked Jake Fromm before, if you saw the QB1 documentary, you'd like Jake Fromm. And so I like the guy. I'm not saying I would draft him first overall, because you don't do that with guys that don't have elite traits, but I would draft him and I would expect him to do a good job, even as a rookie, honestly. Not maybe spectacular, but I would expect him to go in and do a pretty good job because of the things that you mentioned, because he can anticipate. He's good at reading defenses. He doesn't make a lot of bad decisions. He makes some. And I don't think he's as bad of an athlete as his 40 time seems to suggest. And so, dude, I'm not tripping over Jake Fromm's workout. I just think he is what he is. We've seen plenty against top competition for 3 years. Same argument you made about Andrew Thomas, and obviously not to the same degree of a prospect, but if you've liked what you've seen, you like the guy, you believe in him. If you don't like it, then there's no need to force that issue.
Yeah, and that's kind of the argument we were making last night here on SEC Night, or the night before last, excuse me, was that, whether or not, barring some type of fifth or sixth round draft pick for Jake Fromm, he made the right decision in coming out this year. I mean, you could say what you want about what may or may not have happened for coming back in his senior year and having a great senior year and potentially improving his draft stock, but Sarah, a 6'2" quarterback with very, very limited athletic traits and arm talent is never going to be a first round draft pick at the quarterback position, never really going to lock it in right there in the top 20 picks and be a guaranteed starter day one. So what you know is that he's going to have to do, like we said here on SEC Nightly, the same thing he did going into Georgia and coming out of Georgia for multiple years there. He's going to have to go in there every single camp and win the job. I mean, that's exactly what he's going to have to do the rest of his NFL career until he's a made man. If that ever happens down the road, if we see 3 or 4 years of Jake Fromm starting, here's what I'm telling you. It ain't going to be 5,000 yards ripping it up. Yeah. It ain't going to be 45 touchdown passes, and it's probably not going to be the league's leader in passing. What it is going to be is total efficiency, ball control, ball security, always having his guys in the right play. Probably his team will lead the league in, the fewest negative plays in the run game because that's exactly what he does. He checks at the line of scrimmage, he gets his guys in the right play and gets it done. And whether or not he's ever going to be able to rip a backside post 65 yards and do all that kind of stuff and crazy arm talent stuff, no. It's never going to happen, and we knew that heading in to yesterday's throwing session. All right, want to play a little game here with you, Sarah, before we get out, because we're already 27 minutes into tonight's show. We got a game of Ruggs, Jeudy, or Jefferson. 3 SEC wide receivers. We took CeeDee Lamb. Here, let's get a quick opinion. CeeDee Lamb, your wide receiver 1?
He's not my wide receiver 1. I haven't actually decided that yet. Gosh, I love these guys so much.
You strike me as a Laviska Shellnut kind of guy.
Ooh, I do like him. I don't put him in the same tier as these guys, but I do like him quite a bit. He's a good guy. He's a good player, man. He's fun.
Yeah, Sarah's got a little Pac-12 bias, but we won't tell anybody. All right. When it comes to skill guys, I've kind of sniffed it out on you there. All right, let's get back to these Ruggs, Jeudy, and Jefferson guys. We know what Ruggs is, right? He's the burner. He's the typical, we saw 4.27 yesterday and immediately went and iced his quad. Good decision from him. We'll see him catch and run routes with Tua, not at his first pro day, but Alabama's going to have 2 pro days, so Tua can end up getting healthy there April 9th. So they'll probably run routes on air there. So if you had to pick one of these 3 guys, Ruggs, Jeudy, or Jefferson, Sarah, who are you taking?
Oh, man. This depends on what you want to do to a defense, man. I honestly – I love all these guys, and it's great because my team needs a wide receiver. And so
he's a Broncos fan, folks.
I am. I'm a Broncos fan. I love Jerry Jeudy. I haven't seen many receivers in the time that I've been doing this that can run routes like Jerry Jeudy. I know that's the narrative that gets pushed into the ground, but dude, you see this guy release. You see this guy just deceptive with his head fakes and deceptive with his shoulders, and he's just so good. He's a pro-ready wide receiver. And there's nothing that you couldn't ask him to do right now. I think much better than what Amari Cooper was coming out of Alabama. Excuse me. We just got done talking about all the Georgia guys. Much better than what Amari Cooper was. I know that's basically blasphemous on here. I'm probably never going to be invited back, but I'm sorry.
It's all good, man. Go ahead.
But I think on a higher level of Amari Cooper, in terms of Amari Cooper was this great route runner, but wasn't necessarily known for his explosive traits. And I think that Jerry Jeudy's explosive traits get massively underrated because of how fast Henry Ruggs is. Yeah. But Henry Ruggs, man, that guy is so pretty much everything that you think if you could draw up who could be the next Tyreek Hill type of guy, and I don't even really like to compare guys to Tyreek Hill, you know that, but in terms of impacting the game, there's not many players, if any, that impact it like Tyreek Hill. He's so fast, so strong, so explosive, and that's what Henry Ruggs is. And I think people lose sight of he's just the next John Ross, as a 4.2 something guy who can run, but he's going to get hurt all the time and he can't really play the wide receiver position. Dude, you need to go watch the Alabama games and watch this guy play. 25 TDs on 100 total touches in college, 3 years. That's insane. That doesn't happen just because you run fast. This guy can catch. He can make contested catches. He can run routes. He's physical. To me, honestly, if I'm betting right now today, he's the number one wide receiver off the board, not because he's my personal number one, but because there's nobody in the NFL besides one guy that can do what he does. And dude, for Justin Jefferson, like that might be my man crush of the draft, to be honest with you. Like, I know he plays 99% out of the slot, but every single time I turned on LSU this year, Justin Jefferson making a play. Justin Jefferson making a play. Didn't matter if it was on the sideline, the middle of the field, deep downfield, after the catch. He does everything well. And to see him run a 4.44 or whatever it ended up being officially, man, that guy checks off all the boxes. And I know he's got football in his blood because I know all about that family. So I love it. That guy, I would be so thrilled if he was on my team because he is a quarterback's best friend. I think his brother was a QB. And so, I mean, he just strikes me as a football player that understands every part of the game mentally, and he's able to exploit it, like with defensive backs. Like, he's like, I know that you're not going to be able to defend this, and so he can go do it well. And you can see him doing that all throughout the game. He plays the mental approach better than anyone, I think, in this class. And so, I'm all about Justin Jefferson, not wide receiver one, because I think that Ruggs and those other guys have a bit more,
higher ceiling.
Yeah. So, but man, I like these three guys a lot.
All right. So 2 kind of comparisons for you for Henry Ruggs. How about what was those numbers? 100 touches to 25 touchdowns. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I think Mecole Hardman had 73 touches at the University of Georgia and 11 touchdowns. So not quite as high of a scoring rate, but someone very, very similar. Obviously didn't burn as fast either. Definitely didn't go 4.27. I think Mecole was around, the
4.33.
Yeah, 4.38, something like 4.34, something around those range. So both could really, really run nonetheless. But if I had to, select out of these 3 guys, I think I would take Jeudy because you get the combination of the physical frame from Jefferson and a little bit of the juice that you get from Henry Ruggs. You're not going to get all of it. But another comparison I got for you on Ruggs, and I think this is the more ideal one, Deshaun Jackson. You want to talk about a guy who's kind of been injury prone or whatnot, or it may just be out there to run in a vertical line and get straight downfield and do things like that. It's exactly what Deshaun Jackson's done, and done at a high rate for the last, 11 or 12 years that he's been in the league. So I think that's kind of a good comparison there. I think I would go personally, if I were to start a team, and this might shock you a little bit, I would go Jeudy 1, Jefferson 2, Ruggs 3, because I do think, Sarah, that Ruggs is a little bit of a project. Excuse me. You got to remember, this is a guy that was a hooper until his sophomore year of high school, his junior year of high school. Played 6 games. Next thing you know, the entire SEC has already offered him within his first 6 games of ever playing football. So kind of a sad but interesting story as to why he got into the game of football. If you guys haven't researched that, I would go ahead and take the time out of your day to do that. Just figure out, I guess Google search why Henry Ruggs plays football. Something will most likely pop up. But Sarah, man, I've got to first of all tell you how much and how thankful I am for you joining me and how excited I was to talk to you tonight. You said you got a man crush on whoever it was. I've got a man crush on my boy Sarah Benninger and hosting pods with my guy. So I appreciate you coming on here, man. And you know me, if you got any draft takes you want to unload, this is more than welcome for you to come on to this show and get it out. Sarah, I do want to, before I let you go, give you the opportunity to tell people where they could find all your great work.
Yeah, for sure. I appreciate it, Brooks. And I love doing this, and I loved when we had the Mox podcast together. It's just fun, man. It's fun to talk football. If you guys don't have people to talk football with, like, hit up Brooks on Twitter and find out who responds to his tweets and find out who he interacts with, because the Twitter community can be awesome if you let it be. And so if you want to read my stuff, you can find me at NFL Mox for NFL draft stuff. If you're a Denver Broncos fan, I can't think of any Georgia players on the Denver Broncos, or many. We don't have a ton of prominent SEC guys either. So, but I love the Denver Broncos more than most people you'll ever meet, and I pour that passion into my writing for that and for the NFL draft. And so, predominantly orange.com, NFLmox.com. Obviously, you can follow me on Twitter for all my flaming hot takes, and it's a fun time.
All right, brother. I appreciate you for being on here. Wave goodbye to the folks. We'll patch you out, and we'll talk to you a little bit later. We'll see you, brother. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Friday night show is in the books, which means we will see you Monday evening starting at 9 p.m. That was Sarah Benninger, man. Sarah is the very first guy that got me into this business, that got me into writing and all that. So now that he's off and he's gone, I can tell you how grateful I am for that individual. One of the best people in this media business and one of the most true and caring people in this business. Not a lot of honest and upfront forward people in this industry. Sarah Benninger is one of them, and I am eternally grateful for what he's done to my career. SEC Nightly, we do this Monday through Friday. Typically Monday through Friday. I like to take a day off here and now and then, guys. I apologize for that, but sometimes you need it, right? Your wife needs some attention and some love. So SEC Nightly, Monday through Friday, 9 p.m. As always, I've been your humble host, Brooks Austin. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Do not defensive guys out on the field tomorrow at the NFL Combine. We will wrap it up and recap it Monday evening. SEC Nightly, we'll see you guys next week. Have a good one.